There are a few brands that frequently get recommended to me in the comment section. IQUNIX is one of those brands. In fact, I even got an email from someone asking me to take a look at one of their keyboards. So when IQUNIX offered to send over their new MQ80, which was billed on Kickstarter as the best-sounding, most comfortable aluminum low-profile keyboard, of course, I was interested. I immediately noticed the resemblance to the Low-Free Flow 84 and thought, oh, are we in for another solid typing experience that's surrounded by some major flaws? And overall, no. This keyboard surprised me in the best way possible. Before I explain why I'm impressed though, if you're already eyeing this board, you can use code Cameron on IQUNIX.com to save 5%. For everyone else, let's jump into the details, starting with the build and design. The design of this keyboard makes a statement. It's a work of art in many ways. The solid aluminum body is beautiful in either this white and silver version, known as Moonlight Silver, or the black model, which is called Shadow Black. The aluminum has a special extra smooth 180 grit anodized finish. I am not a materials expert, so I'm not going to act like I can tell the difference between that and some of the other aluminum keyboards that I've reviewed, but I can definitely say that it feels great, just as I'd kind of hope any aluminum keyboard case would. The edges are machined nicely, avoiding the sharp feel you get on the Low-Free Flow, for example. Styling is sleek, cool, and modern with a pop of red color and some unique keycap designs that sort of make me think of futuristic spaceship controls. Though the one thing on the keycaps that I could do without is the diagonal setup on some of the keys. I just found this a bit distracting personally. Overall, this design might not be loved by everyone, but it shouldn't be too off-putting since it's not too far over the top in any way. In addition to the red accents on the keycaps, there is a piece of red aluminum magneted onto the side of the keyboard to give it a little bit more character. It looks cool, and despite the fact that this shape really just feels like it should be capable of doing something like opening a bottle or something, I think sadly it is just decorative. The board is low profile, but stands a bit taller than many of the competing brands. Not by a ton, but it is definitely noticeable. Most of this extra height comes from the switches sticking up above the case. Folks who are more sensitive to it may want a slim wrist rest for support as a result. For typing angle, it winds up being quite flat, just 3 degrees, and there are no adjustable feet on the bottom, just some small rubber bumpers and this beautiful machined aluminum design. The layout of this keyboard is excellent. It's referred to by IQUNIX as an 80% layout, but I tend to think of that as reserved for a TKL board, so I'm actually going to call it a 75%, but that's really just semantics. As far as 75% layouts go, this one is perfect. It's got pretty much everything you could want, a full function row with logical controls and no silly buttons like a dedicated RGB key, shout out Keychron. At the corner you have print screen, insert, and delete, which I think is up there with the most agreeable set of corner keys you could really choose. Then down the side, you have the full complement of home and page up and page down. There's full-size arrow keys, which are great, but they don't have any spacing around them, and there's no tactile bumps to help locate them like some other models might use. This isn't a huge problem, but it's always a consideration. For typing, the MQ80 features PBT keycaps. They have a wide surface area and contoured concave shape to help guide your fingers. They also have a nice, slightly textured feel, which I find pleasing to the touch. Beneath those are hot swappable Kailh Gold Red linear switches, which are super smooth and have low actuation force, resulting in an easy typing experience. These switches are cross-compatible with the Kailh switches that are used in Low-Free Flow and Flow Lite, so you know I'm going to be trying out the Hades switches in here. Inside, you'll find an FR4 plate, silicon gasket mounts, and multiple layers and types of different foams and pads to help dampen the sound and to avoid vibration. The result is pretty spectacular. Give it a listen. Typing is soft and subtle, very smooth and creamy, and not too loud. Sounds are consistent across the board, with everything sounding pretty darn great, including the spacebar, which has some rattle, but not a lot. This is up there with one of the best typing experiences that I've ever had, especially on a low-profile keyboard. I find it hard to imagine too many people out there would be upset with what this keyboard has to offer in terms of typing. When you consider the usability of the MQ80, there are two things to know. First, turning this keyboard on and off is a little bit weird. There's no power switch anywhere on the outside of the case. Instead, function plus escape is used to turn the keyboard on and off. Technically, there is a power switch, but it's hidden under the caps lock key and is only intended to be used if, for example, your function or your escape key were not working correctly. I definitely find this odd, but it's not the end of the world. The benefit is that the case doesn't have any extra switch cutouts, making it cleaner in design and appearance. The drawback is that your friends and family may not have any idea how to work this thing if they need to borrow your computer, which I guess could also be a good thing depending on how much you like to share your keyboards. My second usability call out is that within the marketing materials, this keyboard is shown on top of MacBooks, similar to how some folks use the Newfie Air lineup. However, it doesn't have any specifically designed feet to use with MacBooks. It can be placed on top and the feet will sit outside of the Mac's keyboard area, allowing you to work just fine, but it can slide around and potentially fall off the sides of the laptop, so it's not perfect. Not a deal breaker in my mind because I assume there's not that many people out there asking for this feature, but if you're one of the few, it's good to know that it works, but it's not necessarily a specific design feature, at least not from my point of view. Within other functionality and features, we begin with connectivity, which includes everything you could want. There's 3-device Bluetooth using Bluetooth 5.1, which in testing didn't have any issues with sleep to wake. In the box is an included 2.4 gig USB receiver, plus a USB-C adapter to allow you to place it closer to your keyboard in order to cut down on latency if you want to do some gaming. Finally, there's a wired mode available as well. You can swap between these using function plus the number row. 1, 2, and 3 are for Bluetooth, 4 gets you the 2.4 gig USB receiver, and 5 connects you to wired mode. If you prefer, you can actually just turn the keyboard off and then plug it into your device to also enter wired mode automatically. These are top-notch connectivity options. You've even got 1000 Hz polling on the wired and 2.4 gig connections, meaning that you can game comfortably with this keyboard as well. Finally, the included cable for charging or for wired connectivity is USB-A to C, but it's shockingly high quality. Probably the best cable I've ever gotten with a keyboard specifically. It's got a braided material, there's aluminum ends. It's the quality of cable that a keyboard like this deserves. I just wish it was USB-C to C instead. You can use the MQ80 with Mac or Windows, plus iOS or Android. If you need to switch between Windows and Mac modes, you press and hold Function plus Tab. The keyboard comes with Mac keycaps pre-installed, but also includes Windows keycaps in the box, along with a keycap and switch puller, and also a brush to help get dust or hair out from in between whichever keycaps you wind up using. For customization, this board works with VIA, which allows you to customize your keyboard's behavior and should be able to handle the vast majority of people's requirements. However, for those super users out there, despite the VIA compatibility, it's not actually compatible with QMK, which is the open source firmware that many mechanical keyboards utilize. This limitation might be a problem for users who prefer certain alternative interfaces, but given VIA's simplicity and ease of use, I don't anticipate it being an issue for most people. For backlighting, there are north-facing RGBs with non-shine-through keycaps. There's also an independently controllable light bar, which serves as a decorative light, but is also functional as an indicator light for caps lock, connectivity changes, and battery levels. The backlight controls primarily utilize the bottom row of letters, which is different than many other manufacturers. The most common spot I've seen backlighting controls is the arrow keys, which is instead utilized for media controls on this board, which is pretty interesting. Using the bottom row winds up being fairly logical, with the only exception being B for battery, which is kind of stuck in between the backlight speed up and backlight speed down. Speaking of battery, there is a 4,000 mAh battery inside, which gets an advertised 350 hours of use. It doesn't specify, but I have to assume that this is with backlighting off, since 350 is a pretty crazy number otherwise. Especially when you compare it to the already good numbers from Newfie, for example, which gets 220 hours on their Air 75 V2 with backlighting off, and 294 hours on the newer Kick 75, also with backlighting off. If you're ever curious about the state of charge, you can use the aforementioned function plus B combination, which blinks the side indicator light to show you the battery life. Each blink is representative of 10%. It is a little bit annoying to have to sit there and count the number of blinks, but I guess it's better than nothing. The last topic to cover is the travel case that this keyboard comes in. When this keyboard arrived, it didn't actually come in labeled product packaging. It came in a very basic brown box, and inside that was this travel case. The travel case is a very cool alternative to regular packaging, especially if you're like me and keep all of your keyboard and other electronic boxes. You can imagine what my storage closet looks like in the studio here. It is not good. Inside the case, the keyboard fits snugly underneath 2 Velcro straps. On top, there is space for a charging cable and a few other small accessories. The whole package is a little bit bulky for such a low-profile board, but at the same time, it's not big enough to fit a traditional mouse. I wasn't able to fit even my slimmest mice, but I imagine that, for example, the Microsoft Surface Arc mouse, the one that folds down flat, could probably fit in there. Either way, I think this case is unique and will definitely be a differentiator for some people out there, especially if you like to travel to the office or to a LAN party with a nice keyboard. The IQUNIX MQ80 is quite new after going through a phase on Kickstarter. The retail price wound up at $160, a good bit under the initial expected price of $200 when the Kickstarter launched. This is good news on pricing in a time when there is so much uncertainty around pricing, given the chaos of tariffs and the myriad of economic ripple effects around the globe. IQUNIX is based in China, and as a result will undoubtedly be impacted by all of the madness going on, but hopefully this board will remain at $160 because I think that's a pretty good price. This pricing puts it on par with the Low-Free Flow 84, a board which has striking similarities visually and a pretty similar typing experience, but which pales in comparison when compared to just about everything else. This keyboard is basically everything that the Flow 84 wanted to be and more, including a better typing experience, at least in my opinion. It's more expensive than the Low-Free Flow Lite 84, the Keychron K3 Max, and the Newfie Air 75 V2, as well as the Kick 75, all of which are solid keyboards, but not nearly as luxurious as this aluminum build with all of the bells and whistles. There's certainly arguments to be made for each of those cheaper keyboards, but there is something incredible about the MQ80 that just makes it worth the money in my eyes. When you start plotting out the differentiators and deal breakers, you can really see why this keyboard is nearly perfect. First, it's got a premium build and materials, from the aluminum case to the PBT keycaps to the Kailh switches. The styling is unique, clean, and professional looking in either of the 2 colors. The 75% layout that they used is pretty much perfect with everything that you need, other than a number pad, of course. There's the incredible typing sound and feel, which is smooth and creamy perfection. It's got excellent connectivity options. There's best-in-class battery life. The accessories are great and include everything from expected things like multi-OS keycaps to the unexpected ones like the included brush to the truly unique ones like the included travel case. This keyboard honestly has everything. On the deal breaker side, there's the strange manner in which you turn the keyboard on and off using function plus escape. There's no adjustable feet to change the typing angle. The keyboard markings aren't my favorite personally, but you're probably not going to be bothered too much unless you're super picky. The customization supports VIA, but not QMK. And finally, there's the $160 price tag, which makes it one of the more premium offerings out there and tough if you are on a strict budget. If none of those are concerns for you, an elite typing experience absolutely awaits with this incredible keyboard. You can save 5% on IQUNIX.com with code Cameron. Links are in the video description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.